We're doing this because we care, Mariah. You're not a child anymore. It's time to let the dream go." That was the line that did it. That was the moment I stopped being their embarrassment and became my own revolution. Before I get into this story, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comment section below. Whether it's Chicago, Nigeria, or Johannesburg, I want to see you repping your city. And hey, don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might just speak your own truth louder than you ever could. If you've ever been dismissed, doubted, or degraded because you chased a dream that didn't come with a salary, this story is for you. Let's get into it. My name is Mariah Blake. I'm 30 years old, and I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I run a sustainability tech startup. I help underserved neighborhoods monitor and manage energy consumption through an app one built in my bedroom, wearing secondhand hoodies and burning through instant ramen. I believed in it, but my family? They believed in my older brother, Marcus, who was doing it the right way. He got his MBA, landed a banking job, wore tailored suits to breakfast. Me? I wore black leggings and coded through the night, hoping the next update wouldn't crash the system. So imagine my surprise when I walked into my parents' house for a casual dinner and found a circle of chairs waiting. My mom, Dad, Marcus, and even my Aunt Lenora were sitting like jury members. My cousin Naomi stood up with a clipboard. I kid you not, a clipboard. She said, "Mariah, this isn't an attack. It's an intervention." I laughed out loud. An intervention for what? Innovation? But they weren't joking. "We're worried," my dad said. "You're 30, no steady paycheck, living off savings, and that business hasn't turned a profit." Marcus added, "You're burning out. And for what? A glorified calculator app. Energy tracking software." I corrected. He didn't blink. My mom leaned in like she was offering me some maternal wisdom instead of an emotional guillotine. "Your brother just bought his first home. You're still renting. Maybe it's time to consider stability, baby." I stared at the table, at the water rings on the wood, the cold pasta on the plates, the pitted looks in their eyes. They didn't see my app. They didn't see the data we were collecting, the way we were helping families in heat deserts, the way one of our pilots had just saved a senior center $13,000 in energy costs. They saw failure, because success, in their eyes, only wore a tie and clocked in at 9. Then my phone buzzed. Once, twice, a third time. I picked it up to silence it, but the name on the notification made my stomach drop. Forbes, 10 startups changing the climate game, and the woman founder behind the best one. I clicked. It was me. My photo. My name. My company. Front and center. My hands trembled. Marcus leaned over. "Who's texting you?" I held up the screen. "Why don't you all read it together?" My mom squinted. Dad leaned closer. Naomi actually gasped. They read the headline in silence. No one said a word, until Aunt Lenora muttered, "Forbes? The magazine?" "Yeah," I said. "The same one you framed Marcus's internship article from." Suddenly, the room felt different, like I'd grown 10 feet tall, like the furniture had shrunk, like their opinions no longer paid rent in my soul. "You didn't believe in me," I said, "and that's okay. But don't confuse concern with control. I never needed your permission. I just wanted your support." No one spoke. I stood, picked up my jacket, and turned to go, then paused. I didn't fail. You just weren't watching close enough to see me rise. That night, I walked home in the cold, hoodie zipped to my chin, and smiled, because I'd never felt warmer. They say success changes people. But they never tell you it also changes the way people look at you, especially the ones who never saw you clearly to begin with. The night after the Forbes article dropped, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Cousins I hadn't spoken to since college. High school classmates who once called me weird for staying late in the computer lab. Even a teacher who once said I'd struggle in the real world if I didn't stop dreaming. And of course, my family. The same family who sat me down just 24 hours before and called my work a hobby with soft voices and cruel intentions. Now, my brother Marcus posted the Forbes article on his LinkedIn with a caption, "Proud of my little sister for the impact she's making." My mom sent a photo of my Forbes headshot to our family group chat with a row of heart emojis and, "We always knew you had it in you." Aunt Lenora? She DM'd me a YouTube link to a TED Talk titled Powerhouse Women in Tech and added, "You should totally do something like this." I sat on my couch, staring at the screen, fingers frozen. Just yesterday, I was the black sheep. Now I was their redemption story. And I hated how hollow it felt. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't ungrateful. The article was everything I'd worked for. Validation, visibility, real traction. But the claps? They came from the same hands that had pointed at me with doubt, measured my worth by pay stubs, and called my ambition irresponsible. The praise now felt like an afterthought, not a revelation. And yet, it hurt, more than I expected. Because underneath the pride, I knew something no article could erase. They only see your worth when the world tells them to. 2 days later, I went by my parents' house. Not for closure. Not even for conversation. I went to drop off a photo of Grandma Rosa that I had borrowed years ago for a project. She used to be the only one in the family who believed in my path before she passed. When I stepped inside, I saw it. The article. Printed and framed, sitting on the mantle right next to Marcus's MBA diploma. I blinked. "Did you frame this?" I asked my mom. She turned, startled. "Oh, yes. Isn't it beautiful? We're so proud." Proud. That word landed like a slap. I wanted to say, where was this pride when I maxed out my credit card to keep the servers online? Where was it when I cried in my studio at 3 a.m. wondering if I was wasting my youth? Where was it when you whispered behind closed doors that I was making the family look bad? But I didn't. Because I knew she wouldn't hear it. Not really. "I just came to return this," I said, setting the photo down. Then I turned to leave. She followed. "Wait, Mariah. Why are you so cold?" "Cold?" I turned around. "I'm not cold," I said. "I'm consistent. You're the one who changed your tone. I'm still me. The difference is the world finally saw what you didn't." She looked hurt, but I didn't comfort her, because I was done mothering my own mother's guilt. Back home, I sat on the floor of my living room, legs crossed, laptop open, mind racing. The app's user base had tripled since the article. My inbox overflowed with requests for interviews, partnership offers, and potential investors. I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I felt exposed. Because success doesn't just make you seen, it makes you visible in ways you can't control. Every version of me, the tired, the doubted, the deeply unsure, was still inside this woman on magazine covers. But no one saw her. That night, I had a dream. I was standing on a stage, lights beaming, audience clapping. But when I looked down, I wasn't wearing shoes. Just socks with holes in them. Barefoot. Unprotected. Still raw underneath the shine. The next morning, I turned off my phone. No interviews. No press. Just me. I took a long walk down by the river where I used to sit when I couldn't afford an office, sketching my designs on napkins. I sat on the same bench, watched the same water pass by, and whispered to myself, "You did this. Not because they believed in you, but because you did." Later that day, I called Naomi, my cousin with the clipboard from the intervention. She answered hesitantly. "Mariah?" "Hi," I said. "I just wanted to say, I forgive you, but don't ever sit me down like that again unless you plan on investing." Silence. Then a quiet, "Okay." And still, I wasn't angry, because I'd finally realized something. They weren't clapping for me. They were clapping for who I made them look like. clapping for the comeback story they now get to brag about. But I wasn't their trophy. I was my own revolution. That night, I wrote something in my journal. Don't confuse applause with alignment. Success isn't about being seen. It's about never again needing permission to exist. Success isn't always sweet. Sometimes it's served cold, at tables built by people who never thought you'd get a seat, until you built your own. And then, they want to pull up a chair. 2 weeks after the Forbes article dropped, I got the email. Subject line: Keynote Speaker Invitation, National Future Tech Conference 2025. My heart stopped. I read it twice. The conference. The one I used to volunteer at just to sneak into back panels. The one where I carried coffee for speakers I idolized. The one I'd once been laughed out of for asking how much it cost to apply for a booth space. Now, I was the closing keynote. The stage was mine. The announcement made headlines in the tech world. LinkedIn lit up. The conference promoted it across every platform. My face was on digital banners. The words Mariah Blake, disrupting the sustainability sector, were plastered across Twitter, TechCrunch, even Yahoo Finance. I should have been celebrating. And for a moment I was, until the betrayal came. Quiet. Slick. Backdoor. It started with an email forwarded to me by a friend who worked in PR. FYI, thought you should see this. Attached, a pitch deck. A consulting proposal. From Marcus Blake, my brother. Titled, Family-Owned Success, Marcus and Mariah Blake's Blueprint for Black Wealth Through Tech and Finance. I froze. His face was on it. So was mine. Side by side. He had used my success to pitch a joint brand, selling packages to banks, schools, even diversity panels without ever asking me. It got worse. Inside the deck were phrases like, together, they turned a childhood bond into $1 billion blueprint. As co-strategists in the Blake family, they understand both the hustle and the high-rise. Mariah's tech plus Marcus's finance equals generational impact. I nearly threw my laptop. I dialed his number. Immediately. He answered, cheerful. Like we were friends. Yo. Mariah saw the announcement. Proud of you. We should talk. There's real synergy here. Synergy. I spat. You're pitching our relationship like it's a startup. He had the audacity to chuckle. It's marketing. I mean, come on, this is a goldmine. Blake siblings, from intervention to innovation. People eat this stuff up. I gritted my teeth. You humiliated me, Marcus. You sat in that room and called me a failure. And now that the world's clapping, you want to pretend we built this together? Look, I didn't mean it that way. Don't bother. Retract the pitch. Pull every slide with my name on it. Or you'll hear from my attorney before you hear from me again. He scoffed. Don't be dramatic. I'm not, I said. I'm documented. Then I hung up, shaking. I didn't cry, but something inside me collapsed. Because betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the person you once defended when no one else would. The person you shared bunk beds with, watched cartoons with, made peanut butter sandwiches for when mom was working late. And now he was selling me. That night, I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling. Not out of anger, out of grief. Because I realized I didn't just lose my brother in that living room. I lost the illusion that he ever stood beside me in the first place. 3 days later, I was sitting in a studio doing a pre-conference interview. The producer asked, "Will your family be attending the keynote?" I smiled politely. Some of them. Then she added, "Your brother's made a few posts lately. You two working together." I kept my tone even. We're walking different paths. He just didn't know I'd paved mine in concrete. That afternoon, I got a text from Naomi. He's still shopping that deck. I saw it on a Slack thread at work. He's saying you overreacted. Of course he was. Of course I did. Because in his world, my boundaries were always too much. Too loud. Too sensitive. Too real. I went to the conference alone. Walked past banners with my face on them. sat in the green room, headphones in, heartbeat loud in my ears. The speaker before me finished. A woman with a perfect blowout came off stage to a polite round of applause. The host stepped up. And now, our final keynote of the night. The woman behind one of the most transformative apps in sustainability tech. Please welcome Mariah Blake. The room erupted. Standing ovation before I said a word. I stepped onto the stage, heart pounding, pulse thundering behind my ribs. And I told the truth. A year ago, I was eating box soup, wiring software into an app with a cracked screen. 6 months ago, my family staged an intervention. And 2 weeks ago, the same brother who called my dream a dead end used my face in a PowerPoint to build his own. So here's what I want to say, not as a founder, but as a woman. When they finally clap for you, don't forget who you were before the applause. Don't let their recognition rewrite your history. And never, ever, sell your soul just to be accepted at a table you were born to replace. They stood again, louder this time, not for the business, for the boundary. Later that night, I sat on my hotel balcony with my notebook, and I wrote, "The betrayal hurts less when you realize it's the final proof you needed to stop shrinking for people who never saw you in full color." There's a price for every truth you tell out loud, not the polite ones, not the kind you whisper with caveats, but the ones that make people uncomfortable. The ones that cut clean through image and illusion. The ones that turn love into distance. The morning after my keynote went viral, my inbox imploded. Over 800 messages. Investors. Podcasters. Publishers. Even a Netflix producer. And in between them, a message from my mother. "I'm worried about what you said on stage. You embarrassed your family. That wasn't necessary, Mariah. No, congratulations. No, you were incredible. Just damage control. Because in my family, reputation is religion. And I just burned the altar down." The headlines had already taken flight. Founder calls out her family during viral keynote, and the world's listening. From failure to Forbes, how one tech star shut down doubt with a mic drop moment. People loved the drama. But I wasn't trying to go viral. I was trying to survive, to stand on that stage as the same woman who had been invisible in her own living room and say, "I made it anyway." That same day, Marcus called me. I didn't answer. So he texted, "I get it now. I messed up. But airing our business like that? You really gonna cut me off forever?" I stared at the screen numb, because the truth is I didn't know. Could I still love someone who turned me into a brand behind my back? Could I forgive a betrayal that wasn't just personal, but strategic? I didn't have the answer yet. But I knew one thing. He didn't deserve access to my healing. Not yet. Later that night, I sat on the phone with my therapist, Camille. She'd been with me since the early days, back when I was eating frozen waffles and pitching to VCs who mispronounced my name. "You know what this is?" she said gently. "You're in the grief stage of growth." Grief. Yes. You grieve the version of your family you hoped they'd be. And then you start living with the one that actually exists. I swallowed. Because that felt like truth wrapped in glass. 2 days later, Naomi stopped by my apartment. She brought donuts and that awkward cousin energy that always felt like a peace offering. We sat in silence for a bit. Then she said, "They're mad. All of them. Not just because you said it, but because they know it's true." I raised an eyebrow. "They're spinning it like you attacked them. But what you really did was expose the script. And now they don't know how to act without it." She sighed. "Honestly, I'm proud of you. I just wish it didn't have to hurt like this." That was the thing about clarity. It didn't always come with comfort. Sometimes it came at the cost of connection. The rest of that week, I buried myself in work. We signed 3 new community partnerships. Our team doubled in size. A venture firm offered $5 million in series of funding. Every milestone felt surreal. But every celebration also came with a strange ache. Because the people who should have been calling me with tears in their voices weren't. On Sunday, I walked past my parents' house for the first time in months.
I didn't go in.
Just stood across the street, looking at the porch where I used to sit with Grandma Rosa, peeling oranges and talking about things I didn't even know how to dream yet. She would have clapped. She would have yelled it from the block. That's my girl. Not what will the neighbors think. Not you went too far. Just love. Loud and real. I missed her more than ever. Back in my apartment, I found a card slipped under my door. Handwritten. You are the legacy. Not the scandal. Not the secret. The standard. No name. Just a familiar scent on the paper. Lavender and coconut oil. Aunt Lenora. She'd always been quiet, but she was watching. Some women in the family had been forced to play small.
But not me.
Not anymore. That night, I sat down and made a decision. I opened my laptop and created 2 folders. Family history.
And
Family chosen. In the first, I saved old photos. Holiday videos. Letters from when I was a kid. In the second, I started adding names.
Naomi.
My CTO, Brielle. Camille, my therapist. People who saw me fully, supported me deeply, and asked for nothing in return. People who earned a seat at my table. Because clarity wasn't just about what you walked away from. It was also about what and who you built around yourself after the fire cleared. That weekend, I sat on another panel, this time for emerging Black women in tech. A college student raised her hand and asked, "How do you keep going when the people you love the most don't believe in you?" The room got quiet. I leaned into the mic. You love them anyway, but you don't let them sit in the front row of your story. And you never, ever build your worth in their shadows. The audience clapped. Some cried. And I felt something settle in my chest. Not closure, but control. You've changed. That's what my mother said in the voicemail. 3 words, barely whispered. Like she wasn't sure if they were a compliment or a confession. You've changed. And she was right. I had. But what she didn't say was the part one already knew. I didn't change because of the success. I changed because of the silence. Because of the rooms I had to leave. Because of the "we're just worried about you" conversations that were never really about worry. Because I finally stopped contorting myself into the shape of a good daughter. And started becoming a whole woman. It's been almost 6 months since that intervention. 6 months since I walked into a room where they planned to break me and walked out holding my power like a sword. And now, I'm speaking at universities, closing million-dollar contracts, mentoring girls who remind me of the younger version of myself, sitting in coding labs eating ramen, wondering if she'll ever be enough. But more than any of that, I'm at peace. Because I no longer spend my nights begging for understanding from people who only loved the idea of me, not the real me. I stopped trying to make my light soft enough to keep others comfortable. And instead, I let it blaze. Earlier this month, I was featured on the cover of Incorporated magazine. The headline read, "Disruptor, Builder, Boundary Setter. Mariah Blake is done apologizing." And when I opened the article, I didn't cry. I smiled. Because the woman they wrote about, she wasn't just a story anymore. She was real. She was me. A few days later, Naomi called.
"They're still mad," she said.
Especially about the keynote going viral. They think you made the family look bad. I laughed, not bitter, free. I didn't make the family look bad, I said. I just stopped lying for them. Then she asked something that caught me off guard. "Do you think you'll ever let them in again?" The question hovered. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because the answer didn't come with guilt anymore. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe. But not until they stop seeing my truth as betrayal. Because there's a difference between peace and pretending. And I won't sacrifice one for the other again." That night, I sat in my studio and wrote something I'd been holding in for months. Not for press. Not for LinkedIn. Just for me, and for anyone like me. A letter. Memo a letter to the one they didn't clap for, until the world did. Dear you, I don't know your name. I don't know your dream. But I know what it feels like to sit at a family table and be treated like the cautionary tale. I know what it feels like when your ambition becomes an inconvenience. When they say things like, be realistic. When are you going to settle down? What if it doesn't work? And you're left holding your vision like a glass sculpture. So fragile, so beautiful, so easy for someone else to shatter if you let them. But here's what I want you to know. You are not a failure just because they don't recognize your blueprint. You are not broken just because they couldn't see the picture in your head. You are not selfish for choosing a path that doesn't make sense to the people who stopped dreaming years ago. If they can't clap for you now, that's fine. Let them scroll. Let them scoff. Let them sit in their comfort.
But you?
You build. You write the code. You paint the canvas. You plant the seeds in the soil no one else even noticed. And one day, maybe next month, maybe 5 years from now, you'll bloom. And they'll look at you like a miracle. But you'll know, it was never luck. It was never timing. It was never them. It was you, quietly rising, and finally becoming undeniable. Love loudly, Mariah. I folded the letter and tucked it into my journal. Maybe one day I'll publish it. But for now, I let it be what it is. Proof that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is not burn bridges. It's build your own. And if you're still with me, still sitting in a version of your own intervention, where your dreams are being judged instead of celebrated, let me say this one last time. You are not too much. You are not a waste of time. You are not hard to love. You're just too bold for their small storylines. So go write your own. And when they finally stand to clap, you'll already be 10 stories higher.